There have always been people who used religion to gain wealth and power, turning faith into a business and human suffering into profit. Some of them became famous, and millions of followers trusted them, giving their money, time, and devotion, unaware of the dark truth hidden behind the public image. Preachers and televangelists sometimes live in ways so extravagant it shocks the world, yet their followers often believe it is a sign of divine blessing. Stories of abuse, lies, and greed are more common than people realize, and the worst part is that many of these leaders hid their actions for years before anyone uncovered the truth. For instance, one preacher once said that flying on commercial airplanes was like sitting in a tube full of demons. Using church donations, he bought a private jet so he could travel without facing evil in public planes. Another preacher used a hidden earpiece while his wife whispered people's names from backstage, pretending that God was telling him who needed guidance. One even asked his followers to send $300 each to help him buy a $65 million airplane. These are not just wealthy pastors, these are men who turned spirituality into a tool for manipulation, and some went far beyond financial exploitation. Some abused children, others faked miracles, and millions were deceived for years. Adnan Akhtar, also known as Harun Yaha, is one of the most extreme examples. In November 2022, Akhtar, a Turkish man, was sentenced to 8,658 years in prison, one of the longest sentences in modern history. On the surface, he seemed like a religious figure, publishing creationist books and hosting television programs discussing morality and faith. But his life off-screen revealed a horrifying truth. On TV, he appeared surrounded by young women wearing revealing clothes, calling them as kittens and presenting the scene as an innocent spiritual journey. In reality, these women were trapped in a system called turnkey, where they were passed between male cult members and sexually abused. Resistance was not an option. Survivors say they were told that obeying these abuses would bring them closer to God. The police raided his mansion in 2018, arresting over 200 followers, and found a network engaged in blackmail, torture, espionage, and financial exploitation. Followers had to surrender their money and could only use it for emergencies, and attempts to leave were met with threats and violence. After a retrial in 2022, Akhtar was convicted of leading a criminal gang, sexual abuse, kidnapping, torture, and illegal data collection. In 2024, the Turkish government seized all his assets, finally ending his reign of terror. TB Joshua, a Nigerian televangelist, was another preacher with a dark secret. Known as a miracle worker and prophet, he led the Synagogue Church of All Nations, or SCOAN, until his death in June 2021. Millions believed in his divine powers, yet investigations by the BBC revealed a horrifying truth. For nearly 20 years, he repeatedly abused women, some as young as 17, forcing unsafe abortions and isolating victims from their families. Physical abuse was common, followers were whipped, beaten, and deprived of sleep. Over 150 people were essentially imprisoned within the church walls, convinced that Joshua was the only path to salvation. The situation reached a tragic peak in September 2014 when a guest house on church grounds collapsed, killing 115 people, including 84 South Africans who had come to witness his miracles. The official cause was criminal negligence, yet Joshua blamed mysterious forces, offering no proof. Investigations later revealed that many of his televised miracles and healings were staged, and millions of followers were deceived while he quietly amassed a fortune. Robert Morris, the founder of Gateway Church, also abused his position. Beginning in 1982, he abused a 12-year-old girl named Cindy Cleeliser over 4.5 years while presenting himself to the public as a charismatic spiritual leader. As Morris's fame grew, so did his church, which became the 9th largest in America, hosting nearly 26,000 attendees weekly. His books sold in large numbers, speaking fees were extremely high, and his net worth was estimated between $10 million and $117 million. Morris also had influence in politics, advising Donald Trump during the 2016 campaign. While he dined with the powerful, his victims suffered in silence. In 2025, Morris pleaded guilty to child abuse, but his sentence was only 6 months, a tiny fraction of the 10 years possible, and he was required to pay $270,000 to his victim and register as a sex offender. Gateway Church has faced a massive decline in attendance and donations, and legal troubles continue. Todd Bentley's life also reflected a dark turn under the guise of faith. Born in 1976, he had a troubled early life, including sexual assault convictions at age 15, drug use, and a criminal past with gangs. Later, he appeared to find redemption as a preacher, rising to fame during the Lakeland Revival in Florida by 2008. Thousands of people attended his revival events, hoping for miracles. However, his methods were violent and abusive, including kicking, hitting, and choking people while claiming God commanded him to do so. He also claimed to raise the dead, but none of the miracles could be verified. Bentley's career ended in disgrace after personal scandals, including affairs, alcohol abuse, and violent behavior. Despite being declared unfit for ministry in 2020, he returned to preaching, reigniting outrage in the Christian community. Jim Bakker, a televangelist who built Heritage USA, committed large-scale fraud. Between 1984 and 1987, he sold 153,000 lifetime partnerships promising supporters annual stays at his Christian resort. Collecting $158 million, he only had one hotel with 500 rooms, leaving most promises unfulfilled. Donations funded Bakker's luxury lifestyle. He also used ministry money to pay victims of sexual assault, including Jessica Hahn, who was drugged and raped in 1980. Bakker was eventually sentenced to 45 years in federal prison but served only 5. He returned later, selling fake cures, including Silver Solution during the COVID pandemic, claiming it could heal viruses, despite government warnings. Jimmy Swaggart, once a powerful televangelist with a $141.6 million ministry, was exposed in 1988 in a scandal involving a prostitute named Deborah Murphy. Swaggart had publicly accused another preacher of adultery, and Murphy's story revealed his hypocrisy, showing him paying women for sexual acts. Swaggart's ministry collapsed, and although he repented publicly, he was later caught again in similar scandals. He died in 2025 at the age of 90, leaving behind a legacy of hypocrisy that repeated scandals never fully erased. Peter Popoff, a TV preacher known for miracle healings, used a hidden earpiece in 1986 while his wife fed him information collected from prayer cards. He appeared to call out illnesses and perform miracles, but it was a complete scam. Once exposed, his empire collapsed, leaving him in debt. Surprisingly, Popoff returned, targeting African American audiences on BET, selling Miracle Spring Water, and earning millions again. He lives in a multi-million-dollar mansion, continuing to profit from deception. Robert Tilton made millions by taking donations from desperate people and throwing away prayer letters, keeping only the money. ABC's investigation in 1991 revealed that people pleading for help were ignored while Tilton lived in luxury, owning a $139 million mansion and dominating television markets. Lawsuits and media attention eventually ruined his ministry. Kenneth Copeland is another billionaire preacher, with estimates of wealth ranging from $300 million to possibly $1 billion. He owns private jets purchased with church donations, a lakefront mansion, and a tax-exempt residence, saving $150,000 per year. Copeland openly preaches prosperity theology, claiming wealth is a sign of God's favor. Millions donate, hoping for blessings, while his lifestyle reflects extreme extravagance. Benny Hinn, a televangelist famous for healing shows, lives in luxury, worth $60 million with an annual income of over $100 million. He owns a $10 million mansion, luxury cars, and a private jet. Despite IRS investigations and Senate scrutiny, Hinn continued to raise money. In 2024, he admitted to false prophecies but continued to solicit donations, promising hope to followers. Crelo Dollar, preacher of prosperity, faced personal scandals including assaulting his 15-year-old daughter, which led to public outrage and arrests. He also faced Senate investigations for his lavish lifestyle funded by tax-exempt donations. Dollar once asked 200,000 followers to donate $300 each for a $65 million jet, despite already owning Rolls-Royces, a Manhattan condo, and a large estate. Public backlash forced him to cancel the campaign, though his influence remained. Mike Murdoch was exposed in 2003 for misusing donations. Investigations showed that 60% of money went to overhead, including his salary, while less than 3% reached charitable work. Murdoch lived in a $1.5 million mansion, collecting fortunes from followers while hiding obscene collections and behaving as if he were God. Despite scandals, his wealth continued to grow. Marjoe Gortner's story is unique. Born in 1944, he was ordained as a minister at age 4 but suffered abuse and exploitation at the hands of his parents. As a child, he performed for donations, which went entirely to his family. By 16, he escaped and joined California's counterculture scene. In 1971, he returned to preaching as a fraud, performing theatrics to appear holy while secretly exposing the manipulative nature of televangelism. His 1972 documentary revealed the fraud, earning him an Academy Award, yet many of the methods he exposed continue in televangelist shows today. Across decades and continents, these stories reveal a disturbing pattern: men who used religion to manipulate, abuse, and profit, while millions of faithful followers trusted them and suffered quietly. From sexual abuse to financial scams, from fake miracles to extravagant lifestyles funded by donations, the televangelist world has been filled with deception. Despite exposure, arrests, or even deaths, many of these individuals continue to influence and manipulate followers, showing how power, faith, and greed can mix to create a dangerous combination. These stories are a warning. Blind trust in religious leaders without accountability can lead to abuse, exploitation, and even death. History shows that fame, wealth, or a charismatic presence does not guarantee holiness or morality. Many of these leaders took advantage of vulnerable people who sought hope, comfort, and spiritual guidance. Their actions remind us to question authority, demand transparency, and protect those who are most vulnerable from being deceived in the name of faith. Faith should inspire goodness and compassion, but these examples show how it can be twisted into cruelty, control, and greed.